What's going on, everybody?
There he
Welcome
is.
once again to the Blindside Blitz. I am back and not a full 100%. So you guys stick with me. I blew my voice already on the first part here, Joe.
He's questionable, everybody. He's questionable.
I'm going to make it through. If you guys can deal with me on the audio side, and my
right.
cracking voice and, like I'm just hitting puberty. I'm a pubescent, prepubescent Jimmy right now, little 12-year-old me. So here you go. So it's a Blindside Blitz. I'm excited to be back. It's crazy when there's so many things going on. It is playoff time, divisional round, and I can't talk about anything, Joe. No. It is very
not much.
It is so tough. It's killing me, man. It is killing me.
Yeah. I know.
But so I've been alive in the comment section. But thank you so much for everybody. You wish me well and stuff like that. So I'm trying to get through this week. But here we are, and there's Joe DeCapita right there. He's the man, the myth, the legend. Joe, how are you, buddy?
What's going on, Jimmy, and everybody out there? Thanks for tuning in. Listen, we are growing exponentially over on YouTube for Grumblings Media. Make sure you head over there, hit the subscribe button for us, hit the thumbs up if you will, and don't forget to share it to all your family and friends. And if you want to further support the media group that is Grumblings Media, head over to the website, grumblingsmedia.com. There you're going to find other podcasts like ours, and there's going to be plenty of articles also written there. Whether you're into sports, entertainment, political, it's all there. One-stop shop. Further support Grumblings Media. And you know what, Jim?
Yes.
I think we've been dubbed the Blitz Boys going forward.
That's right.
I think that's kind of the whole shtick now. But we got a few things to get to. Obviously, we're going to get into some head coaching discussions. We're going to get into something that Roger Goodell said, which is interesting, and also a couple other topics. But Jim, let's get this thing kick-started, and we will definitely also break down the upcoming playoff games.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Like you said, let's get this thing started. The big talk right now, of course, obviously, is head coaching destinations right there, and the coaches right away. Now that the Lions get bounced early in an upset to the Commanders. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But you can see now injuries finally caught up with them, a bit on the defensive side. Couldn't stop, a wet paper bag here. And now that, those coaches are available here. So teams that have been waiting for these guys to become available and didn't have to wait until after the Super Bowl now. So now they can get their teams together here. And Ben Johnson right off the mark, just right off the bat, off the charts, there he's gone already. So everybody wipe him off the boards. He's
off the wagon.
He's off the wagon. Right, goes right to the Chicago Bears, probably the best destination and most enticing spot here out of everybody here, with the quarterback position, the defense there, and then also some weapons that you have there as well.
Yeah, definitely the most attractive coaching job that was out there. And I mean, obviously, you look at that team. They drafted Caleb Williams in the first round last year, and they're looking to build on that offense. The defense is already pretty much intact, already a really good defense. Offensively, really, the only thing you've got to upgrade or repair is the offensive line. And then, obviously, Caleb Williams himself has to further develop. And Ben Johnson thinks he can bring the best out of Caleb Williams with all the weapons that they have at their disposal. So I think it was the most attractive job for any head coach that decided to take it. And Ben Johnson, even though he had a crazy amount of demands for whatever team was to obtain his services, he ends up choosing Chicago, that already has a GM, because that was one of the things is, you might want to pick the GM. The quarterback is already in place, so we know that was a favorite ability that the Bears do obtain. And then I just think that team is pretty close to being ready to win. And that's what Ben Johnson saw. And he was like, well, I want to turn that franchise around quickly, and maybe we can make a push for the playoffs next year.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Yeah, that's probably the best spot here. It's good. And you think about what he was able to do with the Lions offense, and even Jared Goff back there, a guy that's not even known to be very mobile and things like that too, and some of the trick plays. How how creative can he get here with Caleb Williams now in that Chicago offense and what his capabilities are, and whether who's going to keep the ball or not, shovel pass here and there or whatnot, fake stumbles and things like that too on handoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with Chicago and see who he grabs to fill out the rest of his coaching staff here. Sticking
Absolutely.
Yeah, sticking with the the Detroit Lions and coaching spots here. Aaron Glenn is a hot commodity too as well, and he is highly sought after by number one the Saints. He is number one on the Saints target here to grab. He's a former player for the Saints and former defensive backs coach from 2016 2020, and then also the Jets. Jets are trying to bring him in for an interview. He's going to see with the Jets first, and they're trying to make sure that he doesn't even leave the building here after them. So he formerly played for the Jets too as well. So they're trying to draw those ties to those.
Yeah, he
Their
got drafted
prizes.
actually by the Jets. So
Yes,
like
that's right.
not just close, but they're the ones that gave him the start, right? Had
Mhm.
a very successful career with the Jets and at latter part of his years with the Saints. Obviously, the Saints are in love with Aaron Glenn. They would love to be able to get him into the building and sign him. But the Jets, from what we're hearing out of New York, is everything went great today in
Mhm.
their meetings. Aaron Glenn, he wants to be a Jet. The Jets, obviously, that was their number one guy. They want to sign him, and so far there hasn't been anything official of him signing yet. But in terms of meetings and talking through the scenarios, it sounds like things are going extremely well for the Jets and Aaron Glenn, and it might even come down to getting a deal done by tomorrow.
Right. And I also found out too that the Jets are also interested potentially too, and if this might help lock in getting Aaron Glenn is the GM for the Detroit Lions too as well. Um, Brad Holmes. Now, what do you think about that? Do you think that's part of the deal too as well? They're looking to bring Brad Holmes into and say, hey, Aaron, we want you here, and then this is the GM that you've had too as well that has brought in a lot of the talent here that's been there with the Detroit Lions too as well. Feel comfortable.
Definitely has helped with assembling that roster. But for Aaron anyway, it would be more
Mhm.
of a thing of continuity. He
Mhm.
he knows the guy. He's worked with the guy, and there's familiarity there to where if you bring him and Glenn over, there's a lot to like. There's synergy there, where like the vision for the Jets is going to be aligned. It's going to they're going to be able to have a good working relationship and attack the off season for the Jets. So yeah, I think it would be a good decision if they were to go that route. Uh, but then again, there's like no short list of good GM candidates either.
Right. Yeah, as well. Um, Back to the Saints now. Again, say Glenn does potentially get a deal done here with the Jets. I'm also hearing that the Saints are their second man on their list that they're interested is Mike McCarthy after that. He's out there too. So I mean, there's a lot of different head coaches again that are people that are being talked to for head coaching spots and things like that. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of time for people to wait too, because you still got Joe Brady out there with the Buffalo Bills and things, and there's still even part of the chief staff that hasn't got picked apart yet too as well. But Mike McCarthy, do you think if the Saints, if I've heard that if Aaron Glenn gets chosen by the Jets, that they're going to be quick to jump on one, and that would be Mike McCarthy. Do you think it's smart for them to just jump around to Mike McCarthy after that, or should they even wait to see about some of these
Well,
other guys?
honestly, within the past 24 hours, things have changed. The New Orleans Saints, they love Aaron Glenn. They would love to bring him in, and he could be their head coach. However, with the new updates with how successful the Jets and Aaron have had great conversations,
Mhm.
the Saints have shifted gears, and I think their number one guy now is, in fact, Mike McCarthy. He's
Mhm.
already coming in for a formal face-to-face interview, and I think is if if everything goes well, I think you're going to see Mike McCarthy, you know, bearing the Saints logo.
Hmm. Which I think that's good. I think that's a good move for them. Again, you go to another veteran head coach that's known
Hmm.
for winning. I mean, back to like a Sean Payton type of breed. And I think he could do well with whether it be Derek Carr or whoever else might be your quarterback there. And even Alvin Kamara there too in the backfield too. And I think this hits all those notes. I think that Alvin Kamara is kind of put out there as bullet points for head coaches that he was looking and that to have there for their franchise. So I think
And
that
my
would be good for them. And
yeah,
who's he bring over for his defensive staff?
and mind you, Kamara might not be a Saint either. Like there's the stipulation where maybe he might want to leave and test free agency and see what another team might have to offer him. So yes, that was part of it. Is Kamara's like, oh, I want to wait and see what coach comes in, who they end up hiring, what the scheme's going to look like. Is it going to fit him? Does he have a home there? So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. Obviously, and it's not even a done deal. Like we haven't even heard of him yet meeting with the Saints. We've heard that he is definitely has an interview scheduled. But that's the exciting thing for a lot of these teams, and the domino was really Ben Johnson. Everybody
Mhm.
was waiting to see
Yeah.
where Ben Johnson chose to go before all of these head coaching vacancies. Now they're all starting to fall. Everything kind of picked up its pace. And you mentioned Joe Brady earlier. Uh, that all the momentum that Brady was making is now kind of subsided a little bit because he's still in the playoffs.
Mhm.
And these teams, now that Ben Johnson made his choice, it sounds like these teams are now very eager and excited to kind of fill that void and get it done. So maybe because of Joe Brady being still involved with the Bills and still in the playoffs, that might cost him a job this year because it sounds like a lot of these teams already pretty much have lined up their favorite or second favorite coach uh, to possibly take the helm.
Right, and I think partially because of that is even the lift of the non-tampering, talking to people and coaches and things like that. Before you would have to wait, and there, still physically you couldn't do an interview until yesterday, January
Mhm,
2020, but a lot of people did virtual interviews, and
mhm,
a lot of guys sold were sold on the teams here too, and the teams sold on the coaches here via the remote interviews.
mhm. Yeah, and an
One of those.
interesting thing enough is that the
Mhm,
Bears were the only team that did exclusively virtual interviews. They would
mhm,
not meet up with
right,
anybody. They were doing all virtual interviews, and you could tell,
right,
man, they had a laundry list to go through. Definitely one of the more
yeah,
active teams bringing in coaches and interviewing them.
right, absolutely. One of those coaches um that was very impressive via the satellite or the Zoom meeting type of interviews was Liam Cohen, the Bucks offensive coordinator, and when he interviewed with the Jags were very impressed on what he had said, um, his vision for the team and how he wanted to coach everyone, his knowledge of offense and defensive sides of the ball too as well. Shad Khan really interested in him. He's going to get an in-person interview as well. So he's coming back for a second round. And like you said, who knows if he's going in for a second already? Some of these guys only get their first, or teams aren't waiting for these other guys to finish up with the playoffs. That gives you a head start to start filling out your coaching staff
Right,
and get
right.
ready for the draft earlier, that much sooner.
And that's the thing is since Ben Johnson made his decision, Ben Johnson got to work right away. And he started now he's reaching out to Darren Rizzi, formerly of the Saints, a special teams
Mm-hmm.
coordinator who was the interim head coach this past season. He's trying to bring him in to be the special teams coordinator. There he's just automatically getting the job done, going out there, being super aggressive and getting and filling those holes up with the rest of his staff. Now, other teams are going to fall behind. The longer you go now without deciding on the head coach or signing someone, the longer it's going to take for you to fill out your staff. And by the time you do, if you're the last one standing, oh, we just got our guy, but now everybody plucked some of the top candidates to fill out the staff. So you definitely
Mhm.
don't want to be last. You want to kind of get this deal done. Every team that still has a vacancy, I know they're kind of saying hey to themselves, are like, listen, we need to get something done within the week. Now that Ben Johnson made his decision, we all need to get this thing done because it, depending on the talented coaches that are out there, might be available, may or may not be. You definitely want to be one of the first ones to at least send the invitation to come join the staff.
And what do you think about Liam Cohen possibly going to the Jags? Do you think that's a good fit for them too as well?
I honestly think he's the favorite. I
Mhm.
definitely think that Liam Cohen is the favorite. Would not be shocked in the next couple of
Mhm.
days that he signs a deal with them and they announce that he is the new Jaguars head coach. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you think about it too. Uh, Sometimes us as fans, sometimes you don't really think about all of the logistics that are involved. It's not just taking a job. It's also like where your family's going to live, where your kids are going to go to the school. You know what I mean? The familiarity with the staff or someone that you're going to bring in. So um a lot of things are relationship driven. We've talked about that on the show before too. So to me, Liam Cohen going from Tampa to Jacksonville, pretty darn close. Just have to
Mhm.
hop over to the other side of the state there in Florida, and doesn't have to move too far. Everything's still familiar in terms of environment. Family probably would be happy with that. So
Mhm.
um, I think basically it's a slam dunk. It's probably the most logical move that the Jaguars could make. And then you also bring in Liam Cohen, not just to be a head coach because everybody saw him as a talented coach, but also you're getting an offensive minded guy that can probably help Trevor Lawrence develop more and get the best out of Trevor Lawrence and that
Mhm.
Jaguars offense.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. And what I'm also hearing too is for your Raiders now, the number one now that Ben Johnson again is off the board. Um, Pete Carroll is the name I'm hearing now for the Raiders here. You being a Raiders fan, how do you think that fares for them? Older coach, just out of the game, freshly, just a season away,
Mhm.
and now back in, but has been known to bring in and kind of he worked with Russell Wilson, see what Russell Wilson kind of turned into, things like that. Had Seattle, to the Super Bowl multiple times, always relevant. What do you think he does for your franchise, and if he's a good fit for you guys?
We've talked about this before about older head coaches and
Hmm.
are they deserving of a job. This one, even though Pete Carroll is listed as the favorite, I can't imagine him getting the job. And it's not just because of age, but also like when you are in a new head coaching search, you're looking to find someone new, fresh, more modern, more creative, you know what I mean, than the predecessors before. Pete Carroll's done it a long time. He's experienced, there's no doubt about it. The guy has been there, done that, as a head coach. He's won a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes during the regular season and the postseason. Like all of that is there, right? But he's around 73 years old. How much longer do you think this guy's gonna actually coach for? Like, I know he's in good shape for his age, but let's just say, for example, like, what if he coaches for 2 or 3 more years and then retires? You're doing the whole thing again. You're back to whether he is good for you or not, you're still got right back thrown into the gauntlet of searching for a whole new coach once again. I don't think it would be a wise decision, and I think Pete Carroll, even though he's seen as the favorite right now, I think that they're still going to maybe look a little younger, and then as a last resort, I could see Pete Carroll taking the job.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough because I mean I look at it from both different ways because
Mhm.
I get you want a veteran too. I like to show. I think I said it when we talked about the Giants. I want to see quality, not just whatever this guy is. I want
Right.
to see a guy that's been here for a while, not just a guy that's just showing something here as a coordinator and whatever. Maybe he can do something. And this is where we are with the Giants. But at least for your Raiders though too, you've tried multiple different options. You've gone the veteran route. Gruden, unfortunately, he was kind of ousted unfairly,
Mhm.
out of that position. And then you've
Right.
grabbed, Josh McDaniels. And then that was, a disaster. And now he's, like
Yeah.
you said, crawling his way back to
Yeah.
offensive
Yeah.
coordinator for the
Yeah.
Patriots. How
Yeah.
how
See.
how, how wonderful.
See.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
That's
then
right.
then
Called
you're
it.
like, all right, well, interim coach. All right, here, Antonio Pierce. Here you go. He's really got the locker room, maybe, and a defensive minded guy. He's got fire. And then didn't barely pan out. So where do you go? And like you said, having an older coach here where he is too. Yeah, he's just once year removed, but too, how far is he going to go with your team? Are they going to respond? And if you're building something, how long he's going to be there for to see it
Right.
flower? You know what I mean?
Right.
You can plant the
Right.
seed, but then he jets. Like, what's the next guy going to do?
Mhm.
So that's where I think with your team, like I think you do try and find that guy. I'm thinking even too, what's the case with the Commanders? Say they're ousted this week. Does
Mhm.
Cliff Kingsbury get another shot to be a head coach again? You saw
I
what he
think
could
yeah.
potentially do with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. If he can get a quarterback too and run the system like he has there with Washington, that could be something here for the
Well,
for the
first of all,
Raiders.
there's no Jaden Daniels in this draft, so sorry
Yeah,
to
I know.
say that that's not gonna happen. But I will say this, Cliff Kingsbury's name has come up recently, in Raiders circles about possibly being interviewed for the head coaching job there. So that is a possibility. Um, the other thing I'll say too is his name hasn't been brought up, but again, we talk about Liam Cohen, going to the Jaguars, and it sounds like that's the
That's a
favorite
done deal.
location for him.
Mhm, mhm,
It
mhm.
sounds like it's close, but there hasn't been any contract negotiations yet. Maybe you could bring him in on like a last second interview. I think that would be kind of like a smart deal. But other than Cliff and Liam, if possible, you could bring him in. The only other coach that has already interviewed for the Raiders job is Robert Saleh, who still is
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
Yes, he's not an offensive minded guy, so it definitely would be predicated on who he wants to bring in offensively to take over that coordinator spot. But that's another name to still keep tabs on because if it comes down to it, maybe they go Robert Saleh if they can't get a Joe Brady because we haven't even heard about his name even going to the Raiders. So
Mhm, mhm,
Liam Cohen, Joe Brady, haven't heard anything, but Cliff Kingsbury's interesting, right? Because he's
mhm.
proven once again that, hey, guess what, guys? I didn't forget how to call offensive plays. Look at me go. So
Mhm.
maybe he gets an opportunity with the Raiders, possible. But it's going to be interesting to say the least with that Raiders job. Is it Pete Carroll? Is that a legit guy that they're going to really go with that they're impressed by? And I get it. He has all the experience in the world, but some of these other guys that are younger, that are a little bit more up to date with the modern NFL, I feel like those are the avenues that you really need to pursue.
Mhm. Now that we've covered basically the teams that are looking right now, do you see anybody that's out there that names have been thrown out there that you really feel kind of deserves a shot besides of what who we've already discussed, or somebody
Yeah.
even that too that's even being discussed that I always have a head scratcher, with the
Mhm.
Giants here too. Like, why are people looking at the Giants offensive coordinator as a head coach or whatever
Well,
coach somewhere
that's
else?
no longer
I
happening,
mean,
by
yeah,
the
yeah, I
way.
was gonna say that
So
makes no sense. Yeah, because that's just
you can keep
stupidity.
them. You can keep
But
them, Giants.
for me, I was just say an example, Arthur Smith. I don't know what Arthur Smith has really shown this season that says, hey, let's go give him another head coaching gig. But yet his name has been
I
thrown out there in some interviews.
Yes, yes, and you know what? It's because of the flash in the pan Pittsburgh offense that once was earlier in the regular season. a guy who worked with not one but two quarterbacks in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and making the best out of the moment with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think that's kind of what gave him a little bit of a pedestal to stand on for some teams, and
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of intrigue where like, well, what can he do full time with one quarterback? You know what I mean? So there was rumors about him going for this interview. Jaguars were one of them. The Jaguars were also bringing him in for an interview, but it seems like they're going to go in a different direction for sure. Other names I would have to say that are still kind of in the race: Brian Flores, former Miami Dolphins head coach, had some success there until the whole debacle with the owner there. Uh, got into some issues, and now he's back on the D coordinator train once again. But we've seen him in Minnesota, coaching extremely well. You know, one of the better defenses in the league. And for Flores, it's an interesting road because you hear certain things out of Minnesota too. Some of the players don't really respond well to him. He's kind of very rigid and direct, and not every player kind of responds well to that. So maybe there might be an issue with player relationships or something like that going forward, and maybe that's what's holding him out of some of these head coaching vacancies. But we've heard his name quite a few times. Another team that's still looking for a head coach, Dallas Cowboys. Guess what, guys? It's not going to be Deion Sanders. It's just not. Deion Sanders is comfortable in Colorado. Why would he make the jump now when he himself knows that he's not ready as an NFL coach? Now, we all have heard the statement of Deion saying, "Hey, I'll come and coach for a team, but as long as I get to coach my boys." But yeah, it's just not going to happen. That's almost impossible to happen at this point. But for the Cowboys, a couple names to keep your eyes on is Kellen Moore from the Philadelphia Eagles, formerly of the Cowboys, was the offensive coordinator down there, and then also Brian Schottenheimer is actually getting a heavy look for the Dallas job, who currently is the offensive coordinator, just under Mike McCarthy there. So if you were to go with Schottenheimer, which would make a lot of sense too, then you keep the same offense pretty much. Like obviously different play caller, but there's going to be the continuity there. The staff is going to stay together. Most likely that team will kind of start where it left off when Dak Prescott had a year-ending injury. So, couple of names there, obviously former Cowboy coaches there. Other than that, and we talked about Salah. There's not a whole lot of other names that are being tossed around other than Joe Brady. But what teams are willing to wait? And I think that's the thing: is do you want to be the last man standing to assemble a staff when everybody's already picked through, uh, the cart?
Yeah, Joe, I totally forgot about the Cowboys. Isn't that hilarious? I'm
All
like,
right,
oh
I
yeah,
got
that's
you.
right.
Listen,
But yeah, they're
it's
kind of boring though too, because we kind of knew it was or Schottenheimer or Kellen Moore. I think the funny thing about it is you already had Kellen Moore in the house at one
mhm,
point, and if
he
you
could
only
have just
elevated
yeah,
them, and then you didn't.
right.
So
Yeah, we talked
if
about
I'm
that too
Kellen
when
Moore,
that
if I'm Kellen
situation
Moore, I'm
happened.
almost like, hey man, if you really want me, double. like, well,
And they'll be
I
like,
want what I really want.
no.
No, yeah,
They'll
no,
be like, "Oh, Brian
uh,
Schottenheimer's our guy now."
yeah,
So,
Schottenheimer, yep. But yeah, and I was really hoping to see the Deion Sanders thing happen too, so he can destroy the Cowboys. But that makes sense though too. Again, he's doing the smart thing.
mhm,
Um, touching on that quick. I heard a scenario. I was listening to WFAN the fan here this
mhm,
morning, and somebody was running by scenarios to where um Cleveland or Tennessee doesn't snag, Shador, and he possibly goes to the Giants. Now, the Giants, again, if they do grab Shador Sanders, because I heard that they
okay,
actually really like him
okay,
too. So
mhm,
if they go, because I'm hearing that even the Cleveland might go for Hunter. So that leaves it open. So then if they do, say this team sucks again, the Giants lose, which they, from what I'm seeing, their schedule, the toughest schedule in the NFL. They do well. And right now, this GM and this head coach they've given another chance to go at this, but I think if another losing season happens here, they're probably out the door. Now, is it then enticing now for Dion? Now he's got his son playing for the New York Football Giants to say, all right, you're already there. I'm coming home. Here I come. I'm going over to the New York Giants here to coach my son and be the head coach of the New York Giants. Do you see that potentially if that scenario plays out?
You mean the following year?
If so the following year, yes. 2026
so, yeah.
draft, basically. Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. The only reason why
I'm not praying for it, though. I'm trying to trust me.
There's a couple of scenarios we got to talk about. So one, Shador. We've mentioned it on the show before. Currently, I don't envision Shador Sanders or even Cam Ward as quarterbacks worthy of a top 10 pick in this draft. And we do know that the quarterbacks do in fact get pushed up, and they do get picked in the top 3 and all that. We get it. We expect this to happen. If this scenario was to go through the way Jim says, and the Giants draft Shador. Now, here's the thing. Here's the positive about Shador is from an X's and O's standpoint, this kid acts like a 10-year vet in terms of knowledge and football IQ, and you'll never really see him make a very bad decision. And he's light years. Let's just put it this way. He's light years ahead of the college quarterbacks coming out. In terms of understanding football, reading defenses. I mean, for God's sakes, he grew up with Deion Sanders as his father, a guy who could read offenses, and then he would also he also broke down defenses to his kids, so I can only imagine growing up in that scenario as a kid, learning from one of the greats, and now it's your moment now as a quarterback. So I think the head game for Shador is already there, in terms of NFL caliber. Like, I think he's already there. The problem for Shador is it's the other element. It's the physical element that isn't all together, all in a line and ready to take on the NFL. Accuracy sometimes becomes the issue, his mechanics, his footwork. There's a lot of things that have to be worked out in order for him to be an NFL caliber quarterback. However, if the Giants take Shador and that's what they go with, a year later, you might be able to see the Giants entertain it. But I don't know if they would actually go through with it because Deion Sanders has only had 3 years of college head coaching experience, not NFL, college head coaching experience. So if you give him a 4th year and then all of a sudden you're going to bring him right up to the high ranks and say, okay, it's your show, you run it. It's a little too aggressive, I feel. And we all know Deion, like it's not a secret. But it would be entertaining. I will say that.
It would be. Oh, dude, I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. But
I will say that I don't think it would be the best decision.
Right. I don't think it would be either, but we ran that scenario here right now, 2025, January 21st.
Bookmark it.
So bookmark it, and we'll see this time next year, see what happens. So we'll be able to look at it and be like, we called the scenario either way. It was like, oh, they didn't go for it. They're like, here we go. But yeah, I don't want it to happen. And another thing that happened today, I guess in a positive, but it's funny how the extreme the fans get too after losses, right? Who's to blame for losses, right? The Lions game, like, oh my goodness, it was like Jared Goff was just throwing into coverage like nobody, but he was also getting
Really bad
pressured more
game.
than I've seen him before though
Mhm.
before. And I don't know, for Ben Johnson, who's been doing so much this season and really calling good games, I think they should have just kept running the ball. Like Gibbs was running off like 10-yard rips, 15-yard rips like every single time. Just keep rolling and then get away from the pass. If it ain't working and you're getting just get rolling. And that burns out and if that offense, you can't stop the Washington offense, keep them off the field. You know what I mean? Grind it out, tire out that defense. And for him to not see that, I mean, that was blowing my mind. But getting to what I was really looking to bring up here, the early exit of the Minnesota Vikings, fans went to X and were complaining nonstop, not only about Darnold, but they wanted Kevin O'Connell gone. They were like, absurd. Dude, this guy has made the playoffs this many times or whatever and lost this many times. He's a seasoned guy and then a playoff dud. All this stuff, all this crazy shit. And it blows my mind. They're just these fans aren't happy enough. And I've talked about this so many different times. Like when you have teams that are shitty as mine right now, and you've been there with your Giants for like a decade, or your Raiders for a decade a while back, even too.
Whatever fan I am.
Well, yeah. The fact that you can't even sniff the playoffs sometimes, you know what I mean? Let alone, I would love to make it to the playoffs every single year and just even lose out, whatever. At least you're competing.
You know what ownership did? You know what ownership did for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah,
they're just going to have Kevin O'Connell there even longer, and
they extended him, which I think is right.
And the GM is going to get extended too. So, like, you can complain all you want. First of all, Vikings fans, you have nothing to complain about. You overachieved with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, got to the playoffs, was the second seed in the NFC, and you know, it was one of those teams where, or maybe not second seed, but you were a high-end seed. You won 14 games, and you just didn't have enough that game. You just didn't execute enough that game. So, yes, you could be frustrated. You're upset. I get it. But you can't blame Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is what helped you get there. If you want to, here, I'll be willing to do this on behalf of the Raiders. We will take Kevin O'Connell off your hands, so you guys don't have to complain about him anymore. And we'll take your GM too, because we don't have one either. And and you guys can start the whole interview process over again. It'll be fine.
Right. And this is what I'm talking about here, because look at, you wouldn't have been where you were this season if not for Kevin O'Connell. You think anybody else but him is taking Sam Darnold and pushing that team to the playoffs? Nobody saw that coming. Like, even though you were a supporter of Sam Darnold and stuff, we both looked at the Vikings this season and said, well, they're going to compete. I think they're going to do well, but nothing like what they did this season. 2 losses on the season or whatever. No way. Nobody ever saw that coming. Even if they had JJ McCarthy starting, nobody saw that coming at all. And the fact that they did it with Sam Darnold is astronomical. So much is so that even Josh McCown is getting, recognition. And if some people are interviewing Josh McCown for jobs too, the quarterback,
the Jets did
for them. So and I think it's astronomical here that the people, that the fans want to think that way. And for the GM side, what the GM has done with this team, think of a guy that, again, made trades and then picked up just as good, if not better, people within free agency or the draft than what you got from those trades. You lose a running back. Oh, well, look, we just brought in Aaron Jones. You know what I mean? Again, the talent you've got, wide receiver all around. You get rid of, Irv Smith Jr. or whatever, grab another tight end there. Now you've got another tight end there on top of it. You're just getting talent all around the board. Yeah, you say, Danielle Hunter, see you later, buddy. But then now you've got even talent there on the other side too, as well.
Jonathan Bernard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. And you don't get to see that with a lot of different franchises. Some franchises you see GMs trade away that guy, and Joe, you're like, dude, this guy's a freaking bonehead. Like, you just gave away all that for nothing. And then when you go to draft, you draft this fool. Oh my gosh, dude, I'm gonna die right now. So Vikings don't know how well they have it right now.
Oh no, not at all. And it's crazy too. Is like they want to get rid of Sam Darnold too. Well, they might. It's possible the Vikings re-sign him because of how good of a season he had with them. Why not keep him?
Right.
And people are gonna go be like, oh well, yeah, we drafted JJ to be the starter, so you should just start him. Well, he's not getting paid 40 million a year, 50 million a year. Like Sam Darnold will be probably like now that he's had two really bad pressure moment games,
Mm-hmm.
that drops the price now. Now
Yeah.
maybe we're looking at 35 million a year instead. But
Mm-hmm.
that being said, you can keep both quarterbacks because you're not paying JJ hardly anything. And when they're done with Sam Darnold, then when JJ's ready, like really, really ready to take over, then you can make the switch.
Mm-hmm.
That to me would be the more logical thing. So we'll see if that actually transpires. But man, I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
like I would love a good GM and a head coach. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely, Joe. All right. So there we are. We're talking about head coach destinations, some GM stuff.
That's right.
Let's talk a little Roger Goodell and what's going on with the NFL right now, Joe.
Yeah,
Roger Goodell quoted 18 game schedule is logical.
that's right.
Logical
That's what
to
he said.
whom? Here, what do you say, Roger?
Logical to the NFL, of course,
Mm.
because it means more revenue, more money for the owners, for the leadership of the NFL, for Goodell too. I mean, let's just face it, it's a money-driven league, and any way they can kind of expand their bank, they're gonna do so. So, he
Mhm.
thinks it's logical for 18-game schedule. I would kind of go the other way. I would push back on that a little bit because here's the issue is we talked about the Lions all year long. Another
Mhm.
injury, another injury. Every week it seemed like another starter was going down for them. And yes, they were able to overcome most of that, but it caught up to them in the playoffs for sure.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
teams like that could be great in the playoffs. You extend this regular season even further. I know it's going to be another week, but look at the injury list that we've seen from the 49ers, the Detroit Lions. Like a
Yeah.
lot of these teams that it was just almost like one every 2 weeks another starter was done for the year. And it really crippled those teams. Now, maybe if the Niners were healthy, if it was a shorter season, maybe they're in the playoffs right now and they just wreak havoc on the other team. We're not going to know that because every single it feels like every single year we're having this conversation now of expanding the season again. Expanding the season. Now, Roger Goodell has stated in order to get the 18 game schedule completed and agreed upon, he wants to take away another preseason game. So that way you would only have 2
Oh,
weeks.
man.
You would only Jim, you would only have 2 weeks to get your team ready and do scrimmages. What are you supposed to do with the other 2 weeks?
Yeah.
You're just gonna do practices and by the end of the month, you're like, "Okay, now it's cutting day."
Yeah.
So
And
you have 2 games to look at in terms of game film, like live film,
mhm. Mhm.
and then you gotta make a judgment call based on those
Yeah.
2 games. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
You're getting worse football out there because again, nobody's gonna be ready. You're unsure of who's great enough for your good enough for your roster to get on there, and then less padded practices, things like that. And again, they're not getting used to the football shape and weather and things like
The
that. It's like
physicality of it,
the physicality, and that's why. So it's going to lead to more injuries. So you're going to have an
right?
extended season with more injuries. And he
Mhm.
didn't even bring up a fact of another bye week at all. I mean,
No.
your answer is just to eliminate a preseason game. What are you,
Mhm.
stupid? I mean, you're already
Yeah.
suffering
Well,
for
we
that
know
right
that.
now already. And then on top of that, you're going to do that when teams, like you said, are already suffering from injuries and things like that. There's very minimal teams that are, fully healthy right now. And, you know, also, I mean, look what it's doing to the playoff situation. Like, what do you do then? And who gets in and gets out? You can expand the playoffs then too. Is it going to really stretch until President's Day now? And or even past that now with
Mhm.
the full season? I mean, it's astronomical what he's asking here with these guys. And,
Yeah.
again, players, they're making these contracts, have to do these, have to play a whole nother game on top of it. And
Mhm.
the thing that bothered me this season with where does it stop with the breaking the records all the time? Like it's
Yeah.
one thing when there's certain
Well,
eras you can mark an era to
mhm,
where this record was broken from this football era.
mhm.
If it's changing every 3 years, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Here's what I'll say about that. As far as the records go, it's should no longer be, broken down by
Tracked.
games. It shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
broken down by games. Like
Mm-hmm.
it should be about this specific position that you're breaking the record with and
Mm-hmm.
how let's say for example receiver, how many catches did it take you to break that record? You know what I mean? Was it less? Was it more? How running backs, how many carries did it take for you to get those
Right.
yards or the touchdown? So yes, I get it from a game perspective where the all-time records that have held up for so many years, then they get taken down. We need to really, instead of looking at games, we need to look at how the amount of work that they put in to get that record. Is it
Mm-hmm.
deemed, did they really break it, or did they, because they had 10 more catches or they had 20 more carries, they broke the record. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole other conversation we could get into on another day.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But real quick, I just want to tell the Blitz Nation out there, listen, we're glad that you're supporting us. It's been amazing. We are definitely over 4,000 subscribers now at Grumblings Media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up while you're there, and don't forget to share it to all your family and friends. Um, we want you guys involved in the show too. So this is a interactive show. When we go live, we want you to drop down in the comments, ask a question, give us your opinion on whatever we might be talking about, or if you have something you want us to discuss, also drop that in the comment section below too.
All right, Joe, talking about Roger Goodell in the NFL, we also hear from college football playoffs commissioner. He says now he and the NFL are collaborating with together with future schedules here now, because there was even a few games this season
Mhm,
in the
mhm.
playoffs that overlapped with the NFL season. I think it
Made
was
me so
December
angry.
21st. It was the Kansas City and Texas game and the Steelers and Ravens game during the season, week 15. It's funny that those four teams ended up actually playing in the playoffs too, as well. That's kind of funny too, in the same scenario. But yeah, they're going to maybe figure it out, because again, college football feels like, hey man, you just kind of stomped on our turf, because we've always had these Saturdays and things like that, and blah blah, blah, and you go in and kind of do stuff like this, and Sundays, and you kind of change your schedules around. Why don't we work together so all of us can work to and thrive from this here too?
Yeah, they're gonna work in unison, and this is the best thing that can happen for football fans. I mean, I know myself, like, I was really trying to pay attention to some of those big time, prime time games, and then all of a sudden, the NFL had a game, and I'm like, I had to pick and choose what to watch.
Mhm,
Like, I mean,
mhm.
it couldn't bounce back and forth. It was hard enough to, you know what I mean, to keep tabs on them both. So, for the NFL, uh, I think this is a great thing for college. It's a great thing because now you're going to get realistic uh, um, television ratings. You're going to get realistic ones for your playoff games for the college level. That was a huge success, by the way. The
Mhm.
NCAA college playoff, uh, the 12 teams that got nominated in there, and it was a huge success. Everybody was loving it. It sounds like they're going to expand it to 14, I think,
14 and
next year,
16.
or 16 maybe. But it's gonna be awesome. Like, going forward, I feel like this is the right move for college football, and we've been clamoring for this. We've been yelling at the top of our lungs, "We need a playoff system." So finally have it. And now for the NFL too, whenever they have their big time games at the end of the regular season where they have Saturday games or Friday night games, or I mean, anything that's going to clash with each other. Now they're going to look at each other's schedules, try to kind of move things around in a fashion to where both leagues will be able to reap the rewards from the television viewers.
Yeah, I mean that should be big for both. You don't want to enter interference. I hate it when they overlap the Monday Night Football games. During the season when they run two at the same time.
Two at the same
It's super
time,
annoying.
yeah,
Yeah, it's super annoying.
Go back to one. Just go
What's
back
funny
to one.
is I almost got fooled by NFL Network too. They're very very tricky because I was up Sunday and just hanging out and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I'm going to put the game on, right?
But
And
they
I'm
have a
going through.
replay.
Oh, well, yeah, they had a replay, and then I'm like, because it's like, I was watching the Bills game, or no, who was it? The Chiefs game early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I see down on NFL Network it said like the Ravens game. I'm like, that game's on already. The Ravens and Bills like right at the same time. What the F, dude? And then I'm like, dude, I'm looking at it, and I'm actually watching. I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, this. But then I'm looking down at the screen, and I'm like, dude, it says the Bills are 3-0 and the Ravens are like 1-2. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I'm like, against each other. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, right? And then I seriously watched it for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, wait a minute. And because I even saw some of the plays, and then I saw like Matt Milano was out. I'm like, no, I'm like, this is a replay. And then it said nothing about it being a replay. I'm like, oh man, I totally got it.
Didn't have like a little icon in the corner.
No, in the corner, no, nothing like that. It was crazy, man. Yeah, I totally, yeah, man. I got catfished by the NFL Network. Bastards. They catfished me on the game. So then I was like, oh, but I felt better. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and watch the other friggin' game then. And I'm like, I could watch that game later tonight then.
Jim, I know something that won't make you feel better, and that's the NFL referees.
No, I mean, they never make me feel better,
dude.
Are they getting any better, Joe?
People are losing their minds these past playoff games, and rightfully so. I gotta say, like, the evidence has been out there all regular season about how much the referees helped the Chiefs, and it was no more evident than that playoff game. I mean, everything Houston tried to do, whether they had a big play to Nico Collins and it got called back for holding, or everyone gets points to the Patrick Mahomes late slide. And this is why there's been conversations about possibly penalizing quarterbacks that slide late. Craziest thing is that both Texan defenders didn't even really hit them. They hit each other over top of them. So, but they still threw the flag. They still called it, and it sustained the drive. They were able to score on that. So,
what's funny is a lot of these calls too are never even sat there and like huddled up and debated with the Chiefs. They don't sit there and they talk about it. They're just like instantly throw it, and they don't just like pay no mind. Just keep going. What
was interesting though too is for the first time we've seen the play callers that were covering the game. Troy Aikman was nitpicking the referees. Was like, that's terrible call. Why would you call that? That's not an illegal hit. Like, he was calling them out as you were watching the game. It's like, finally, with some brains, was calling.
Finally, we agree with Troy Aikman.
I know, right?
So, he's going to get fined by the NFL.
But man, I gotta say, it hasn't been just playoffs. All throughout the regular season, these referees have been deciding games, and this is what's dangerous, is because if the NFL doesn't get this corrected, you're going to have you already have a whole freaking platoon of fans that think the game is rigged now. There's been conversations about the NFL being rigged for years, but now like people are going to look at all these different things. Oh, why'd the refs do that? They helped that team out. You know what I mean? That referee crew in particular help them win this game. And now you're starting to get to the point where fans are now saying, hey, well, we already know who's going to win because that team makes a lot of calls for the Chiefs, or it looks like this game in particular is so one-sided. How's the other team going to even have a chance to win? So the NFL needs to do something about this and not wait. Like you need to correct it now because fans are calling it out. I mean, we've seen video footage that fans are recording themselves and then posting later and be like, is this a hip drop tackle? That was another one.
Yeah, the hip drop tackle was one. Yeah.
With the hip drop. It was the epitome of a hip drop tackle. You showed a video and it was that. That was what it was. And then you even saw the Texan go, hey, where's the flag? Where's the flag?
Yeah, right after.
Nothing. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. If
Mhm,
this is how it's going to continue, which what it
Sit
looks like,
down.
then
mhm.
I will not recognize if the Chiefs end up winning this Super Bowl, making it to the Super Bowl and winning. I will not recognize the Chiefs as Super Bowl
We
winners.
did it. We did it,
Just
Joe.
can't. Just
Yeah.
absolutely can't.
Yeah, it's almost like when you talk about some of those it's an empty championship. Like I kind of like you feel like people kind of look at it almost as maybe the Michigan championship, when people look at that and stealing the signs and then they wonder like, oh man, or even with
Right.
the
Right.
baseball and the Astros,
Right.
like, oh, they were stealing signs too. It's like
Yeah.
they got a voided championship because it's hollow because they cheated their way through and stuff like that. They had
But
this
they
kind of
still got it.
stuff.
They still got
They still got
awarded
it.
it. You know
Still
what I mean?
did.
Like
Yep.
there's been even those claims stem back with the Patriots and their
Yeah.
dynasty.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah.
was
With the
there was
Gate,
two
the videotaping the
yeah,
sidelines. I
there
mean,
was two
everything that they
Super
did.
Bowls in question, and they had evidence, but somehow it just got thrown out.
Mhm.
But guess who still has a championship? The
Yep.
Patriots.
Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I
Or
mean,
even
this has
during that whole
happened
thing
before.
with all that, what happened? They just lost a draft pick and they got fined. They're like, okay, we still keep the
Oh,
championship. It
yeah,
still happened. So like, what
exactly.
was that?
They
What does that
still
bother us?
my
Money?
point. My
Yeah.
point is, how about okay, you renege the championship,
Yeah.
and obviously you can't replay the game, but you
You should.
renege you re.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Get
you
all the
should.
players back together, right?
But my thing is like you should at least renege the championship. And for that year, guess what? There was no Super Bowl champion
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
cheated. Because you
Right.
need to
And
do
then
something like that.
right, and then maybe that would maybe make people think about it, or the NFL about allowing it to happen, because that's an ugly mark, stain that's there throughout history, that
Through
there's a
black
void year.
eyes.
Why is there a
Through black
void
eyes.
year? What happened there? Oh yeah, well that's the time that these guys cheated and blah blah blah. This. Everybody remembers that Pete Rose is the guy who gambled for baseball. Like that's a
Mhm.
mark on baseball. He is forever
Right.
marked. Things not making it into the Hall of Fame. That
Will
type of thing. This is where some of these teams in the NFL should stand on some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Especially, like I said, when legalized gambling became a thing, that they partnered, got in bed with legalized gambling and said, oh, no, this is okay. And we're going to partner with the companies that actually create these lines and everything and stuff, and the money for everybody too and stuff, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a very sketchy line to be on, because when you're telling people that, hey, we're not rigged, we're not this, we're not that, but go ahead, bet with this, thing that we sponsor and this and blah. That's the official gambling site of the NFL and blah blah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a very slippery slope where it is.
It's all a moneymaker. I mean, honestly,
I get it. I get that.
Even the betting portion for the NFL and the partnership that they have, it's all to make money. That's what it is.
Mhm.
The whole betting argument about, oh well, they should have never gotten bed with betting because now they're going to basically play with games. I don't agree with that. I think for Vegas, it's huge because now they're making money hand over fist. So now they've tapped into one of the most popular American professional sports, and now they're reaping the benefits finally, something that they've always wanted to do because they keep playing with the lines. That's what they do. That's what they do best, and that's how they get people's money from them. So
Mhm.
it's crazy what the referees have already pulled out of their hats.
All right, talk
It's
about betting, Joe. I'm already making my prop bet for this coming game. My prop is the flop. How many times Patrick Mahomes is going to flop to get calls?
Oh,
I'm starting it at 3 over under, 3 over under plus minus on the flops.
I will say this too.
The prop flop.
I will give actual kudos to the sideline referee that did not throw a flag on that play.
Right. Yeah.
Because how many times, I mean, how obvious was it? He literally stopped moving because he knew the guy was going to push him.
Yep.
But he just stopped moving so
that's
he could try
his
to
play
get a
that he
call.
does too. Right.
Yep.
And you talk about plays and that quarterbacks do to try and get those types of calls, what maybe should
manipulated.
be illegal. This is what Patrick Mahomes has kind of put into his back pocket, into his repertoire. He does this, he stops, but he also plays that out like, I'm slowing down, I'm going out of bounds, so hit me. And then he stays in bounds and then pulls out a move and like, all right, so they pull off. Well, now guys aren't falling for it anymore. And that's why they do it. So what he did is he switched it up and he did, all right, well, now, I'm not faking anymore. I'm going to stop. And then you guys are going to hit me. And then I'm going to get it either way.
I think, here's what I think. I think going forward, and obviously this has to be like the NFL talking to the officials about this for the following year, is if a player with the ball advances forward past the line of scrimmage, they're free game to hit. Unless they step out and then the guy hits them when they're clearly out of bounds, like it used to be. If Mahomes, who has done such a good job of manipulating the defense and slowing down, like acting like he's going to go out of bounds, and all of a sudden he bursts for another 5, 6, 7 yards down the sideline. That's the problem. Is that the defenders are hogtied, basically. Like they don't know what to do. They don't know what they can or cannot do with the quarterback. So, listen, you take that step forward and you get drilled out of bounds. Hey, that's part of football.
Hey, I say they incorporate arena football and they put a wall along the sidelines, and then all the teams sidelines and all the players stand behind the wall, just like hockey. And when they're ready to enter, they either open a door or they hop over the wall to sub in. And then that way there is no really out of bounds. There is still, you could get, but you're hit into a barrier to where you're definitely not going past the line and you're there.
The only problem with that is that we'll no longer get the toe tap catches. On the sidelines or in the back. That's the only downfall of that.
That is true. And well, to answer the question though, too, I guess, Joe, because we kind of focus directly on the Chiefs, and maybe that was the point of that whole thing though, too. But everybody obviously knows the answer to this one. The refs are not getting any better. They're getting worse. There were so many different calls that they missed, even in the Lions game as well, that hit on, Jared Goff too, on that interception too, the blast to the face. That ended up becoming a touchdown. Some clear things that they just missed. There was a lot, and even in the Ravens game too. I watched with the Bills and the Ravens on both sides, holding a bunch of different times. Never called.
Now that you just brought up holding,
sure.
I'm sorry, but I've seen several playoff games where the offensive linemen are hooking, not holding. They're hooking around, around the shoulder, and they're just holding the back part of the jersey of the defender and not letting go until the running back goes through or the play's over with. That's holding. Why aren't we not calling that? It blows my mind. I'm like, the sideline refs, that's your job. If you're a line judge, that's part of your job. Part of your job is to make sure nobody's offsides, there's no false start and holding calls.
I watched one of those happen.
I can't take it.
Like right up the middle where a guy got hooked hard. And the line judge was looking over at the halfback where the screen pass was going to be. And it's like, what are you doing? He's like watching the play. He's like, oh, there you go.
Come on.
Like it was literally right in front of him. It's like, how did he miss that? It's like it's literally right in front of him. But okay, referees still suck.
Yeah, they do.
That's not, but at least until we get to our picks here and breaking down our preview here of the upcoming games. Matthew Stafford calling it quits. Yes or no? His wife went to Instagram after the last game here too. Said we love to watch him play. We always love to watch him play. I would never stop loving that. The kids love to say, congratulations, daddy, and root for daddy. But is this his last game? You never know. Time will tell. So, dun, 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 Joe, is it? Is he going to quit or not? Here we go.
Stafford after the game, right? The Rams lose. It's kind of fresh. The wound. Yeah,
they asked him right after. I always hate that when that happens too, Joe.
And here's the thing, but normally, you say, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. but it was a different feeling and a different way Stafford said it. It makes you really think like, oh, this guy is really contemplating retirement. Um, Basically just saying, oh, we're gonna think about it. I'm gonna get with my family and friends, and we're gonna talk. So I think this is a serious thing that Stafford is really looking into. Really, kind of, do I want to go in a 17th season? This guy's been around.
Oh
Do
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
go into a 17th season and start from the very beginning of the regular season and fight our way through, and maybe if we're lucky enough again to make the playoffs and try to make another push? Do I want to do that to my body? Do I want to do that? Do I even feel like taking that punishment anymore? So, and obviously, when you have a long career like Stafford does, it does
Mhm,
take a toll on the family life. You know, you're all in with football. You're working out day into night. And then you're away on the weekends sometimes. So it's tough. It's really tough. So for Stafford and his family, listen, he's won a Super Bowl. That's
mhm,
usually the eluding factors. Like, I haven't won a Super Bowl yet. I'll give it one more shot. But he's won a
mhm.
Super Bowl. He's been to the Pro Bowl twice. Um, he's been super successful as a quarterback. He's broken some milestones that only like two or three other people have done as a
Yeah.
quarterback.
I think
Like,
he
this
had the
guy has
quickest
had,
to 10,000 yards in the first 5 seasons. I think he was there with Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, I think, or something
yeah,
like that.
this guy has really done an amazing has had an amazing career. It's Hall of Fame career conversation. He's 23rd all time overall as a quarterback in NFL history. So definitely deserving of making the Hall of Fame. 36 years old. So I think this guy's been there, done that, to the point where I wouldn't be mad at Stafford if he does decide to retire.
What makes it tough, and he kinda alluded to this too, he goes, "Well, I'm really balled out this season too, though, I feel like played really well, we had a
Played
good
really
shot
well.
here
Yeah.
too."
Yep.
65.8 completion percentage, 20 touchdowns with 8, interceptions, and they made it so far, and that's what keeps guys kinda keep grasping at this,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I think he feels that too, this team could run it back again. You know what I mean? If they were able to do it here, what they did, and with such a slow start that they had, and
Hmm.
if it wasn't for even the weather, that's even a different ball game. But that weather, you could tell that affected that team so badly. And that's sometimes the home field advantage that you get with some of
It
those
is what
East
it is.
Coast teams. You know what I mean?
Football.
Yeah, exactly. But
It
that was
is
a
what it is.
factor in that game. And that's where I feel like they feel like, especially with Puka Nacua, because we've seen that guy ball out, and for him to miss a couple of those catches and things like
Hmm.
that, and not be able to bring those in because he
Oh,
lost his footing, especially that deep ball,
yeah.
man, you know what I mean? That's the factor that killed you on some of those
He made that
games.
catch.
And
That's crazy.
I, yeah, yeah, but this is what those guys look at, Matthew Stafford. So I don't know. I feel like he's really gonna think about it. I think he's a competitor, but really, I think what comes down to it is too is money with the team. They're on the hook for what, 49.5 million, I think, for next year's contract or something like that, unless he
Mhm.
renegotiates it. So do they go with the extension, or does he just call quits, or what does he do here? So that's something that they have to
Well,
look at here.
he don't have to look at that. If he wants to retire, he can
No,
retire
yeah.
whenever he
Yeah, I know
wants.
he can
So,
retire there too. I know, but it's like I think he's going to probably have a conversation even with Sam Kroenke too, and see where they want the future of the team to go to as well. Because right now they don't have the quarterback of the future in the house either. I feel like the
no,
team can run
they're
it
done.
back. So I mean, I feel like he's got one more year in him. I don't think he's going to do it this year. I feel like he made it close this year, and even if they fall
Mhm.
shorter than they did this year, it's not a failure, and it's not like, hey, whatever, I played until I was washed up. He's still competing.
Mhm.
He is not washed up.
Right.
So
No, not by any means, but
right,
but
right.
the thing is he's been there, he's done it for so long. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, if Stafford does decide to retire, nobody can be mad at the guy.
No, I wouldn't be mad at him at all.
The guy's has had an amazing career and has won the Super Bowl. Not a lot of guys can say that. Some guys
Mhm.
go their whole entire career and never win a chip.
Dan
So,
Marino.
dude, if anybody deserved it, man, he was definitely one of them.
Mhm,
Like that, he was
mhm.
such a good quarterback. But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah,
Well,
so
now
like for
with
Stafford,
the record
it's
books
gonna
and
be
everything, he's getting forgotten.
it's going to be interesting to see how this all develops in the offseason. Like obviously
Mhm.
right now things are fresh and it sucks that they lost and you got to deal with that loss in the playoffs. Like does he want to go through this whole thing again? You know, it's going to be it's going to definitely take a toll on him a little bit. I feel like, especially in the off season when there isn't practice and you're home with the family and you're like, hmm, you know, I could get used to this kind of, you know. So
Mhm.
those thoughts are going to creep into his head, and I wonder just how much it's going to resonate when it gets into that portion of the off season.
Yep. All right, Joe, here we go. It is the
The
conference
games.
championship weekend here. The games, let the games begin. The Commanders, oh man, upset the Lions. That game was crazy. I can't believe the Lions, man. They were blown. Oh man, I was so
Dude,
frustrated.
I
And
listen,
me as a Giants fan, I'm
listen.
like, dude, it cannot be Commanders, Eagles, please. Because
Listen.
I always want to root for somebody in the Super Bowl, right? I hate it when I'm like, oh, when it was the
Uh,
Eagles, Patriots, I wanted to shoot myself. I'm like, I can't root for any of these teams,
how
you
incredible
know?
would this be though for Jaden Daniels as a rookie to possibly beat the Eagles, knock them off too, and go into the Super Bowl as a rookie? It is crazy. It's happened before, by the way. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the first time, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a rarity. You know that. So, it would be incredible. Commanders, listen, we talked about how their defense had to step up, and that was going to be the weak part of their team, but Jaden Daniels just could not be denied. That offense put up a ton of points, and they never looked back, and that
Mm-hmm.
defense did what was necessary to advance him to this stage. So,
Mm-hmm.
good job for Jaden Daniels. Good luck to Jaden Daniels and this Washington Commanders team. But they are, in fact, facing a well equipped and experienced group in the Philadelphia Eagles. This one is going to be something to see.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because these teams know each other as well. But the Eagles on paper, they're just a so much better team though. So they almost look like the David and Goliath here. This is what Jaden Daniels is though. Doesn't he remind
Hmm.
you of the David, here fighting this
Yeah,
Goliath? He's the guy
yeah,
there with his
right,
slingshot. I'm gonna aim right
right.
here and boom and just take you down. You're like, oh, I can't believe that dude just did that. Oh my god, it's amazing. But this thing about this Commanders team, yes, they're getting this hot streak and they're playing well, but you got that factor to where you're looking at them and you're like, man, their defense really isn't that good. They played well last game,
Hmm.
but how far can this go? Can they do it again? Can they do it again? Can this offensive line protect Jaden Daniels enough? They protected him very well in the last game. He had it all day, like a nice pocket. He didn't even have to do a lot of
Hmm.
scrambling, things like that. When everything was covered, he was able to take off here and there, but he didn't have to do that often. He was able to find his spot in the zone and get it to his targets here within the zone defense. And because they were just doing zone blitz because they had so many different injuries too, they just had to try and pin their ears back and kind of go at him. And he was making them pay for it. Jaden Daniels, big time against the blitz too, throwing into the blitz, huge QBR. And that could be a factor here with the Eagles because they don't have to blitz and things like that. They don't have to do things like that. They could sit back. They have so much talent in the secondary that they can just cover everybody and then tempt Jane Daniels. Hey, where are you going to go now?
The interesting thing about this too is that Vic Fangio, who's
Mm-hmm.
known as an aggressive play caller for the Eagles. I wonder how many times he plans on dialing up a blitz to send it at a rookie quarterback to put him in a
Mm-hmm.
high pressured environment in Philly. By the way, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be loud. It's going to be filled with Philly fans. You're going to see some Washington Commander fans for sure because
Mm-hmm.
nobody, not even Commander fans, thought they were going to make it this far.
Right.
So I'm curious to see the ratio of fans in Philly, but nonetheless, this is going to be an explosive game. I feel like I tell you what, as good as the Eagles roster is, I gotta give credit to the Washington offense. And I think that's
Mhm.
what's going to still give them a legitimate chance to go
Mhm.
into Philly and possibly have an upset. I mean, that to me is we talked about it before the playoffs even started. We said, okay, everybody knows Washington's weakness is defense.
Mhm.
They're going to have to outscore teams to win games. And
Mhm.
so far, they've done that.
Mhm.
Now, like you just said earlier, these are divisional opponents, they're rivals, they know each other very well. What kind of wrinkles are both teams going to come up with, whether it be offensively or defensively, that we're going to see in this game? And who can one take the lead and keep it? That's going to be the key for me.
Mhm.
I love it. I hope that I'm hoping the Commanders can get an upset. Washington going to the Super Bowl would be insane, but
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick
it's
one,
gonna be
that's
tough.
who I guess I would rather see there. You talked about Vic Fangio's defense again, creating turnovers. They just been attacking the ball and creating turnovers, strip sacks, whether it be punching the ball out too as well. We've seen that in the last game too as well. And then the key for them is to contain Daniels. Like I said, they want to be able to do that because they don't really blitz even that often. They're actually fourth lowest in the league at 18%
Mhm.
here at blitzing because they have the ability just to stay back there with the talent that they have in the backfield. And this is maybe what they want to do. They don't want to be able to blitz and then have Jaden Daniels beat them out on the blitz, whether it be scrambling or dump it off. That's what he did to the Lions and made them pay for it drastically. But the one factor here, though, too, that the Lions didn't have, they didn't have Jalen Carter, who is a major disruptor, the ability to crash the interior, disrupt the pocket, and make impact plays here too for the Eagles. Keep an eye on that to crash up that middle here on that Washington offensive line. See if though Jaden Daniels breaks out of that and can get out of that and make some runs with his legs too as well.
That right
That'll be
there is the
key here.
difference. That right there is
Mm-hmm.
gonna be the difference. Jaden Daniels is the NFC version of a AFC Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't plan for it. It's something that is unscripted. There's nothing you can do. It just happens, and then you have to try to counter it some way on the fly. Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Carter, like you mentioned, was near unstoppable last game, but he was stoppable. If you double team him, that defensive line doesn't do much. Like
Mm-hmm.
they still created pressure a little bit here and there, but if you take their best D lineman and Jalen Carter and you do not make him a factor, you double team him, keep him on ice. That gives you ample time. That gives you ample opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
execute those offensive plays. And I gotta tell you, the Eagles have not faced, with Jaden Daniels and what he's been able to do now more than he was in the regular season. Regular season, he was a little capped in the beginning of the year. Really, what they weren't really trying to call plays for him to be that mobile guy. But then they opened up that playbook, as they got down to the latter part of the year, to where now
Mm-hmm.
it's free roam. Do you, Jaden Daniels, make it happen? And that's going to be the difference in this game. They might have known Jaden Daniels in the regular season, but now that the way that the Commanders are playing now, they are a much better team than the Eagles remember last time around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the key factor for the Eagles this year, week 2, is Saquon Barkley. You got to run the ball with Saquon Barkley. Right now, Saquon averages just over 137 scrimmage yards per game against Washington. So that's
It's
big. That's
crazy.
got to be, yeah, where
Yeah.
they have to run the ball. And it's funny, he's the only player to average more scrimmage yards against a single opponent in NFL history, um, other than Jim Brown, Hall of Famer Jim Brown, who did it against the Eagles. So he's in good graces here with another, Hall of Famer right there too, Jim Brown. That's how effective he is. So I think that's the key. That's been the key all season for the Eagles, is to have Saquon run the ball, and then Jaden Daniels can make some plays here and there. Isn't asked Jalen Hurts not asked to do a whole lot, but Jalen Hurts hasn't been the best. He's been pretty mediocre lately. And last week, getting a little banged up, especially on that left leg when he came down, when he got overstretched. That knee looks pretty rough. So how mobile will Jalen Hurts be and effective in his running? So that could be
Oh,
a
they're gonna
factor
shoot him
in
up
this
with
game too,
drugs.
as well.
Shoot him
Right.
up with
But
drugs. He'll be
I
fine.
mean, that could be a factor in here. And like you said before, Commanders, and I said not the best defense, but within the regular season, they had 17 turnovers. Just last week against the Lions, 5, and which led to 3 touchdowns. So balling out for the playoffs.
Mhm.
Teams, real teams that go for it and win the championship, step up. And how do you do it? Defense. So let's see. Dan Quinn, he's been there
What?
before.
Yeah.
And the one thing I thought in that game too is he didn't seem phased no matter how tight the game got. You look over at him,
Yeah,
he's just
right.
looking around.
Calm, cool,
You look at
collected.
Dan Campbell, he was sweating a bit, man. He was like freaking out and stuff. And the fact that in that game too, when they're 12 guys are on the field and all of them are yelling like come back instead of timeout,
Yeah.
timeout. What the
Mhm.
hell are you doing? You know what I mean?
They didn't want to use the
Mismanagement all
timeout. They're
around.
trying to avoid it. They were
I get
really
it,
trying to
but you
avoid
just
it.
gave them the first down. But I mean, by then I think it was already too late anyways.
Mhm.
Washington had the momentum. They were going to get that first down no matter what, I think, too. But there you go. Eagles, Commanders. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be knockout, drag out. Commanders have been able to do it before. Let's see if they can do it again. Eagles, they're the number 1 seed right now. You know, at this point, you know, they're the top spot, the top dog. So to be able to get to the Super Bowl here, Commanders got a rough climb here. But hey, you know, again, I hate both teams. But if I had to go for one, I would love to see, I guess, the Commanders in that story with Jaden Daniels going through there. And they haven't had one in a while. You know, I mean, whatever. They can have one. They haven't won one since what, Mark Rippon in 1992 or something like that, 91. I can't remember. It's been so long. So let's see what happens there. But either way, I'm going to root for the Bills, I think, even for this one to win out. That's got to be my team. If the Bills do not win this game, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still going to watch the Super Bowl, but I'm going to be very, very disgruntled, Joe. It's going to be tough. I don't want either the Chiefs or any of these other teams to be in there. So, all right.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Chiefs,
exactly.
Bills and Chiefs, they faced once again. This season, the Bills had faced the Chiefs and beat them 30-21. Here we go. Now it's playoff time, though. The one thing, though, with this and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, this is their 9th time meeting between the two quarterbacks. They're both 4-4 and head-to-head, but Mahomes has won the playoff record, and that's 3-0 lead in the playoffs. So out of that 4-4, 3 of those games were playoff games, which goes to Mahomes. And Josh Allen looking to change those stats here and change the tide, turn the tide a little bit on this one. And the fortunes for the Buffalo Bills, they all been here before. Like he said, they know them. They know what happened here. 13 seconds is what everybody knows. And then the Bills all of a sudden lose and they're out. Looking for that to not to happen. But one thing they have learned this season is how to finish games, especially last week against the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is that the Bills look a little different this go around. You know, we
Mhm.
talked about later in the year on how the Bills defense was getting better. The Bills defense was getting healthier. And now they hit their stride just at the right time where they got everybody back. Everybody's healthy and everybody's all on the same page this time. You know, you could make excuses. You could say, well, you know, the last time they played the Chiefs in the playoffs, they didn't have Matt Milano and they didn't have this guy and they were missing some pieces. You can't say that anymore. And this Bills team looks different. It looks like they are ready to rock. And I gotta say that this team has been, you know, was it the last 3 games or so, they've been the number 1 defense turning the ball over. They've been stellar. They've been on the same page. And then you put
Mhm.
that together with Josh Allen in that offense on how
Mhm.
well they've been able to get even better themselves. Josh Allen, especially as a quarterback, as a guy making smarter decisions this year. You got to be excited if you're a Bills fan because for the first time, I feel like you really do have a really good shot of knocking the head off the Chiefs. Now,
Mhm.
granted, you do have to play the Chiefs and the referees this game, but
That's right.
It's definitely going to be a black and blue game, very physical. Like, if the Bills play the way they've been playing, and I'll tell you right now, the Chiefs, they've been okay. Defensively,
Mhm,
they've been amazing defensively with Steve Spagnuolo.
mhm,
But offensively, they've just been okay. Mahomes has been okay. He hasn't been a good quarterback this whole year. He's been missing targets. He's made mistakes. And that continued last game against the Texans. Yes, the
mhm.
Texans, not the Bills, not the Ravens. No, they played the Texans and almost lost the game. In fact, they deserved to lose the game. But now you're coming into a very hostile environment. I understand Bills going to KC and all that, but I'll tell you this right now. I've never felt as confident I do in the Bills as I do this year. I
Mhm,
really think they got it all together. And honestly, if they are smart, you double team Chris Jones, no matter where the hell he
mhm,
is on the line. You brought up Jalen Carter with the Eagles. Chris Jones is that for the Chiefs. You cannot allow him to become an impact
mhm,
on
mhm,
that side of the ball. You double team him. I don't care if he lines up at D end or D tackle. You double team him with two guys, no matter where he is. Keep him out of the game and do what you do best. Run the ball, manipulate the defense a little bit for the Bills. Josh Allen can run or throw.
mhm.
And for the Chiefs, they have to play the perfect game. Honestly, they can't turn the ball over. They can't make mistakes. They can't go 3 and out too often because unlike past years that we've seen the Chiefs kind of just take over games offensively and it didn't really matter. Like the defense kind of just ended games for them and they would just stay ahead of everybody offensively. This year's way different. So this matchup is definitely the one that a lot of people I know have been waiting for, that were hoping this would happen. A rematch in the AFC Championship game to make it to the Super Bowl. It doesn't get any bigger than this.
Right. Yeah. And the Buffalo Bills, the thing about it is it's almost like the question that, when we remember Tyreek Hill had left the Chiefs, like, oh, what's Patrick Mahomes going to do now? Who's the next number one without Tyreek Hill? Well, he just had a bunch of different guys spread the ball around and it didn't matter. Then he had a bunch of different targets you go to. Josh Allen, same thing. And when you have so much talent here, especially at tight ends, you can go either Knox or Kincaid. You got, Shazier, you've got other guys around. You could just, and Keon Coleman came on late in the season. So you've got ways to spread it around all over the ball. And like you said, rushing, he and James Cook and company and Davis
They did.
even on top of it. So,
Ty Johnson.
yeah, Ty Johnson on top of it. They're all touching the ball. They're all being able to get the, I think they said between, I think it was just even James Cook at here, 3,000 plus yards, rushing yards this season. And that catch too by Ty Johnson. Oh my goodness, bro. The fingertip catch and stuff like that too.
Mhm.
In this playoffs. Amazing. And like you said, you just got to try and shut down. Chris Jones is your first thing. Karlaftis is really stepping up too in this playoffs too. That's a key factor here too. But a clean pocket. If Josh Allen has the clean pocket, his QBR is 113.6 from a clean pocket, which I think is fourth top here in the NFL. So he loves it when he's got that time to play. He can go, but like you said as well, he can also turn it in, tuck it in, and go. How many design runs did he have last week, too, to where he was even out of shotgun and they went and ran for it and things like that, too? We've seen also teams not afraid to go for it on fourth down. Everybody's going for it. Everybody's got their own version of a tush push or some kind of fourth down conversion or short yardage. The Bills got that play here, that quarterback sneak with Josh Allen. Like they should have did it last week. I think Romo talked about it on third down and short. They should have just ran the same play twice. Instead, they go for a different type of halfback run or it was another designed run for Josh Allen, but it was a fake halfback to a Josh Allen draw. And by that time he got to the line, he was already stuffed. I think you do that quarterback sneak, with the push, 2 times in a row, you're crossing that line and crossing over and getting into that end zone. Instead, they settled for a field goal, which made it a tighter game to where really, that if it wasn't poor weather, Andrews has that catch, and that's a whole different ball game. And Ravens, Ravens really had them in that game. If it wasn't for the weather, you could see another team with the Ravens that they were just affected totally by that weather too, as well. So the Bills even got lucky in that game to come away with that. I don't
even know how they would get affected by that weather, though. They play
right. I know, right? I know, but they were clearly they were. On top of Lamar Jackson kind of underthrowing with that lob pass that he did that multiple times to where. It's almost like guys, when they had to catch the ball, they're like, dude, just get me the ball. You know what I mean? It's like when I try to throw it lightly to my kid because I don't want to hurt his hands, and it's like short of him, and he still kind of drops it because it's too short. That's what we were kind of like looking at in that game. But the Bills, I think key for them is to try to run the football too as well. The Kansas City defense allowed 146.2 rushing yards per game. In the last two in the last playoffs here too. So that's key for them. And the Chiefs on the other side running the football, they haven't been able to run the football. 2.8 yards per carry by the Chiefs in the last 2 games. So that bodes well for the Bills because they're not even actually a run stop team, but with Matt Milano back there and things like that, who is a run stopper and can stop that. With the Chiefs' inability to do it, I think the Buffalo Bills can kind of play into that and eliminate the run and help contain Patrick Mahomes as well on top of that and have Milano kind of spy Mahomes like he kind of did for Lamar and company last week.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be basically it. Like they're going to listen. I'm curious to see both staffs and what they have planned for each other because it seems like they're going to be seeing a lot of each other in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So if the Buffalo Bills win, Joe, they will be the 3rd team since 2018 to beat the Chiefs twice in a season. That was 2018 Patriots and the 2021 Bengals. So looking to join that company there too as well. Mm-hmm. It is a heated rivalry at this point. These 2 young quarterbacks here. These teams that are gaining popularity quick, the Buffalo Bills trying to get to the Super Bowl and trying to get a win. We all know about them going before and having the 0-4, drought of the Super Bowls here too. Trying to get one there for everybody here in Buffalo for us. But ultimately, who do you got in this one, Joe?
I mean, I got the Bills. Like, Bills? I'm honestly, like the Chiefs. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Raiders fan. The Chiefs, honestly, their offense has not been astounding. It's not been special like we normally have seen from Kansas City. This is the first time where I see a little chink in the armor of Kansas City, and I'm just like, and the fact that Mahomes himself is not playing at a high level. In fact, he's playing at the lowest level ever. Right. So because of that, because of how the offense hasn't been able to sustain drives consistently, and you're relying way too much on the defense, now you're facing the Bills who are healthier than ever. They are all on the same page. And the fact that they can score really quickly. And if you allow them to get a 2-score lead, the game might be over at that point. So I got
absolutely. Yeah, me too. I think they need to establish the run. That's the key because again, you're able to run, and then also you keep that offense off the field too as well. That only helps you down the long run and control the game, control the pace, get it going. Let it tick down, and again, close out the game. We've seen teams like this get the lead on the Chiefs
and
not complete and not finish. And when you get down to it, if you have to score last, make sure it is last. Like no time, 0, zilch, because they already know 13 seconds was too much.
But I will say this: we saw this in the college championship last night. Ohio State was pretty much dominating Notre Dame, and then it looked like they kind of just started letting up. They started playing softer defense. Notre Dame drove down, scored. Notre Dame gets the ball back again, goes down, scores. They were down by 16, and now things looked a little shaky. And then Ohio State had to yet again turn it back on and pull away again and score. So, I mean, I don't know why teams do this, but once you get a lead and you are the better team that day, don't let up. Still play the same defense you did when you started. Still play the same way on offense since you started, and dominate. Do not let up until it's 000s at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. One key thing for maybe Mahomes here to look out for, you guys, when you watch this game, see if Patrick Mahomes targets whoever Rasul Douglas is covering. He went after him 5 times last time that they played. He's got QBR of 122, completed all 5 passes here. And that's a target of his he likes to try and pick on here. So see if that becomes a factor. See if he's on D-Hop or Worthy or whatever. That might be a potential here for Mahomes. But he's going to try and hit Travis Kelce too, and all that nonsense.
Yeah, Bills, you cannot play.
Don't leave them open. Don't play zone. Don't play zone.
You can't play zone.
That is disgusting.
Well, I mean, I don't understand when teams switch to zone. What happens? Yeah. Travis doesn't run normal routes. He just runs to an open spot, turns around, and waits for Mahomes to throw the
wait. Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
So don't play zone.
Yep. All right, Joe. That's it for our show this tonight here. I hope you guys enjoyed it out there. I'm looking to rest up and get better for next week, and maybe I could talk a little better, but I made it through it, and I'm excited to watch the games this week.
You did make it through for sure.
Yes, I'm rooting for the Bills. I don't want a Chiefs Super Bowl, and again, I am a Giants fan, so it's an NFC East NFC championship here. Who would have ever thought of that too, right? After all these teams that we've seen this season and the powerhouse that was the NFC North and everything, that the NFC East has the 2 teams vying for the NFC Championship. Amazing what the season brings all the time, every single year, Joe. We never know. But tell everybody one more time how they can find more shows like this one.
It's really easy. Absolutely. Grumblings Media, head over to the channel there, hit the subscribe button for us, hit the like button while you're there, and don't forget to share it to everybody you know. If you want to support the channel further, it's very easy.
Send us money.
Our very own website, grumblingsmedia.com, where you can find articles, you can find other podcasts like ours, whether it be sports, entertainment, or political. It's all there, one stop to go. And you can also follow us anywhere you get your podcasts.
All right, Joe, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these 2 boxes.